Thank you, and I'd like to open up the floor to questions. As stated, I'll need a help from an administrator. Hey there.
How's it going, Marty? I'm back. All
Going
right.
well.
Well, thanks for your presentation there. It was awesome. Cool to
You're very
hear.
welcome.
Yeah. I'd love to hear more kind of about your classes that you guys host in person and whatnot. What should people kind of expect when they come and stay at your place and go through the whole everything that you guys do, the whole class there?
Okay, well, the class, as stated on the website, it's a 1 day and a 1 night event. People are welcome to stick around Saturday night if they like to break up their drive home or just to enjoy the houses and explore them for another night. Another thing, we generally I don't tell this to the students until they arrive, but this is a courtesy I'm happy to extend to all of them. If they want to come back at a later date with their girlfriend or with their teenager to show them what they're thinking, they're always welcome back unless the houses are already rented, and they're often open, and there's of course no charge. I'm no Samaritan, but I do, like you. I mean, I want to educate my fellow countrymen and women on how to do this and how enjoyable it can be. The workshop begins Friday evening about 8 o'clock. I mean, it's not the military. We don't have any hard rules. If somebody shows up late, you don't get punished or anything. We have our first class Friday evening after everyone's had a chance to read through. As soon as they get here, I give them a little, not exactly homework, but they get a 10-page printout of utilities and features that are commonplace in tiny houses and just some basic building terms. As stated during my little talk just then, you don't have to know that much about building to do this. And you know this yourself, but it took me a long time to figure it out. That's a very big, very fundamental mistake people make. They think they have to know how the roof eaves attach to the vertical exterior walls, and they simply don't. Your focus should be on, again, pardon me for being a bit redundant, a person's focus when they sit down to do this should be 99% on what they want their house to look like. And that's one of the first things I bring up during the workshop's first talk, which is design, Friday evening. We all meet in the yurt. The classes are held in all the different houses so people can soak them up together. And people stay in the houses while they're here. And one thing I'd like to say is probably like everyone else in the world, I had some really bad roommate experiences in college. And the thought of sharing your house with a stranger might, if your roommate experiences were as bad as mine back then, and I'm finding out that I'm definitely not the only one who had them. The thought of sharing sharing a house with a stranger, it might set off alarm bells for people. I'm very pleased to say that of the 10 workshops we've had, we haven't had a single roommate issue. It's been the exact opposite. First of all, no one's here very long, and everyone's really happy to be here. This is no reflection on me. I got lucky. I found a beautiful hillside in the Catskills. It's whether it's snowing, it's January, or it's warm and it's June. It's a beautiful setting. People are learning. People with common interest are learning a lot about something they've been thinking about for a lot. So when I sat down to conceive the workshop, my focus was solely on education, on telling everybody as much as I wish I knew when I started. I let this out of my talk right now because I didn't think it was terribly relevant. It won't be left out of my talk it's not left out of the talks where people are on the site here, is I talk briefly about a workshop, a tiny house workshop I attended before I dove into designing this. And I'm not a querulous person. I don't like unfair criticism of other people. And I'm not going to give the name of the gentleman who ran the workshop, but it was not worth, very clinically, it was not worth the time or money that was required to attend it. And I have no problem with somebody making $20,000 in a day like this guy did. Far from resenting him, I admire him. If you're going to take that kind of money off people, give them the service they have paid for. And this workshop was inspired as much by learning so little at that one years ago as it was by all that I've learned since. Because even before I was living in a small house, when I was figuring out how to put this one together, it was a needlessly uphill battle. There's no reason it should be such a chore for people. You just need someone who's already gone down this path to demystify it for you. And that's my job, and I take it seriously. I want everyone to avoid my mistakes and to get this right the first time. To not, you could, even with a small house, you can lose a lot of money very quickly. There is no need for that. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. And um, the first night we talk about design, and there's always a Q&A after every talk. People have lots of questions, and usually we have coffee and cookies, and everybody goes to bed with their creative juices flowing. And Saturday morning, I depending on whether or not someone has to leave at a certain point on Saturday, I like to get started a little late on Saturday, only because I want the people to enjoy the houses that morning. There's no need to let them have breakfast with their girlfriend and their friends in the cabin or your. But the first cook, and there's a wonderful bakery in town, which may not seem like anything to brag about, but there's a wonderful Italian or French bakery on every block in New York City. Having a world-class bakery in a small upstate town is a real delight. I pick up baguettes for everybody. Um, People make themselves something to eat. And then we have the second talk, the first talk of that day on building. And the first half of that talk is a walk-in talk where I take them around the structures and underneath them and through them and show them exactly how these houses work, how the water gets into the houses from the spring, how the effluent is dispensed. If the woman that now owns the land isn't there, I take them to where my house used to be, which is a short walk. That's always eye-opening for attendees. I think they're a little stunned that a house of my size was moved over rural land the way it was. And we have a break for lunch, and the final talk is on finding a place to put your house, as well as the legalities regarding the houses. And that's always a big concern for people, as you know. Well, again, I keep saying the same thing, but it's true. You already know that people's biggest concern after how much they might spend is whether or not where they can live in a legal. Anyway, any other? That was never let a writer talk too long. They never stop.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean that's a pretty good understanding of kind of how your class progresses and whatnot. Super
Yeah.
cool that you took kind of like a bad experience and turning it into something that's much more applicable and approachable and what people are actually looking for and whatnot. So very cool.
One thing I left out was one thing everybody leaves, and they get this in the first class design. They all leave with the blueprints that became my house, that became the cabin, individual mini blueprints. This is of the bathroom hamper shelf, the kitchen, and they get what's arguably, it's not cool to brag, but it ain't bragging if it's true, some of the most annoying nonfiction ever written. The detailed written plans that buttress the blueprint for my house. And one of the nice moments of the workshop is always, and you can see photos online of people staring transfixed at these blueprints, because I think I'm not sure what's going on in their mind, but the vibe I get is they immediately think, I can do this. I can, and they can do it. It's not a platitude. It's not self-help. I'm a big fan of having an empowered attitude when you tackle something challenging. But this is, and I like a good pep talk. This workshop is an incessant waterfall of facts about exactly how you do this, they leave with sample building contracts, the legal, enforceably legal documents that bind that builder to finish the job, sample land rental agreements. I even give them a sample flyer for finding a place to put your land. I will say, and I'm not trying to be cute here, but sometimes, at 4 or 5 on a Saturday when it wraps up and people are walking down to their cars, they look a little beat up because they've just gotten so much information, but beat up in a good way.
That's awesome. Yeah. What were you gonna
So,
say?
I was going to say, well, unfortunately, it's been a very mild winter. We have a workshop next weekend, and the winter workshops, I can't guarantee this, but they almost always include a glorious drunken snowball fight. So,
That sounds awesome. Yeah. It's that's one of those memories you never forget. So good.
yeah, if anyone is listening, if they're interested in coming, Please reach out to me via the website. My phone number and emails there. Not to be pedantic, please do read the website first. It's a little verbose, but most questions are answered there. And please don't, this isn't very good business on my part, but don't pay too much attention to the fee for the workshop. I never made any money off my writing. I haven't made money off I hadn't made much money off this. I'm not motivated by money. If I was, I'd be working in insurance, or I would have gone to law school like my parents told me to. I do want you people to learn. I want you to own your own small house. I don't want you to rent forever. It is a wonderful feeling, even when you only have a tiny amount of equity like I do, to not have to give 1,000 or 1,500 bucks a month away to someone else. It improves the caliber and quality of your life in every conceivable way. This is a very doable goal. You just need, as stated, pardon me for repeating myself, you need someone who's done it before to demystify the process, and you need to see a small house not on TV for real. And the houses here are quite different. I like to think that the students are learning when I'm talking. It's humbling, but I know very well they're learning a lot more when they're just in the houses using them, scrambling eggs in the morning, taking a shower, starting a fire, trying out the composting toilet. You can't help but not learn. And if you don't like what you see here, and the house has been popular so far, that's one of the best things that can happen. Now you know exactly what you don't want to do. But you do have to, you got to start. And this is, coming to this workshop is not in any way a gamble. One thing that comes up with people who call me is, I've thought about doing this, but there's all these things going on in my life now. And I know, and I don't like saying this, and I'm not criticizing these people. If they don't seize the moment and show up, the next time I'm going to hear from them is 6 months later, I'm going to get an email saying, please remove me from your mailing list, which is fine. If they don't want to be on it, they don't have to be. But the notion that you have to do it right now, or that this information will lose its value in a couple of years, it won't. It will only get more valuable. The laws are changing. They're changing slowly, but the code enforcement across the country is slowly changing to accommodate these houses. Law is not an abstraction. It is meant to reflect our values. Increasingly, our society values people living in smaller spaces so they can have the equanimity and the financial base, the financial good of owning their own property.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I know that makes a lot of sense, and I like that. Yeah, that the laws can reflect the values that we're wanting to push forward as a country. And I think that living in small places, small homes, however that may look, is obviously pretty important for so many people, and it'll help a lot of people be financially free, and it also help a lot of people to be financially stable too, which is really important, especially for our entire country's economy. So
yeah, I mean, I'm not Noam Chomsky, but you don't have to be to see the economic stratification that's happened throughout our adult lives, and it does not seem to be improving. And there are not many shortcuts in life. We're all grown men and women. Almost everything requires a struggle. Small houses are one of the few shortcuts I've encountered in my, I don't want to say how long I've been down here. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take 6 to 12 months. That is a very well spent 12 months. At the end of this road is a house, a home. It's not a small achievement. If you've considered doing this, do not wait till you have all your ducks in a row. Do not wait till all your personal circumstances are perfect. But to quote the German writer Goethe, is it Goethe? Beginning has boldness and brilliance in it. That guy was right. You have to start. Okay. And another thing, and this is again poor business. If I know you're in California. If someone is listening in California or someplace that's way too far to drive, forget the goddamn fee. If you pay to fly to come here, I will waive your fee. I want to teach you. I want you to know how to do this. I want you to know the joy, as I did, of calling your family and saying, Mom, I'm a homeowner now. It'll be a great proud moment for all of you. And you can do this.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I like that. I think that's literally the entire reason why we're throwing this online event like this, doing the DIY Fest, is to help people see that they actually can make it happen. They can DIY their house, that it's not out of reach. And I loved what you said. Like when people take a look at your plans, they're like, wow, I think I can do this. And that's what we love, like kind of that like that light bulb moment when it switches
Yeah.
on and they're like, yeah, that's not unattainable. Like I can actually make that happen. So yeah, super cool.
I appreciate someone of your intellect and experience with tiny houses echoing that. And it can't be overstated. I ended my little talk with how I'm a professional writer, barely, and it's true. My songs have been recorded by signed artists. My scripts have been optioned. I haven't had a workshop on how to crack Hollywood or how to crack Nashville. I don't like saying this. I don't think it's that. There ain't no formula for figuring it out. I mean, it's not. I encourage anyone with those goals to go for it. I did. I'm still doing it, but there's no predetermined formula. There is very much predetermined formula to owning your own perfectly handsome and perfectly accommodating small house, one that suits you and your spouse or your teenager or you and your sibling needs perfectly, and one that also suits your professional needs. Many of us are working remotely. The term working remotely wasn't part of the American vernacular 10 or 15 years ago. Now it's on everyone's lips and a large part of everyone's schedule. You can have a house that isn't just perfect for you and your girlfriend or your boyfriend to live in, but for both of you to work in too, and work in peaceably, with your separate offices and separate rooms. The old Robert Frost poem, "Good fences make good neighbors." That's true even when you're living with someone that you obviously love. You're sharing your home with them. People need their space, and the tiny some of the houses you see on TV are just a little. I think in practice, if it's fine it's a personal thing, but your house, if you're concerned that these houses are impracticably small, that's a canard. They're not. They can be movable and perfectly comfortable.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, no, thank you so much for taking the time today to share us
My pleasure.
everything you got
Thank you.
going on. Yeah, super cool.
Thanks for
I'd love
having
to
me.
see, do you have any aerial photos of your homes there that you have? It'd be really cool to like fly drone up and take a picture of
You
it.
know, that's a great question. I do. I didn't. You know now this. I guess I know this too. People have drones now, like they have cell phones, and uh, every now and then people will stay in the cabin or yurt and they'll send up a drone, and some of the winter photos are just beautiful
Yeah.
of the three houses, and the houses are close together, but one thing, and you can, if someone wants this confirmed, shoot me an email and I'll direct you to a site with some online reviews of guests. And they often remark, and I'm pleased to hear this, it's important that although the houses are close together, I mean, there's only so much space here, the privacy is wonderful. No one, when there's a couple in the yurt and another group of friends in the cabin, nobody's ever in anyone's way. It's, I mean, the blueberry bushes separate them, and also where you put the windows on your
Yep.
houses, and that comes up during the talk on building. Windows, as you know, are a large part and I think challenge people when they is one of the many things that when they start asking themselves, how can I possibly do this? How can I figure all this out? I do. The building talk is the longest. It goes on for 3 hours. It's a bit of a marathon. Um, but one of the things we cover in detail is wiring the house and lighting in the windows. And like so many aspects of thinking through your small house, where to put the windows and the lights is daunting at first, but only from a distance. Once you get a little closer to it and you start to think it through, and again, you just have someone give you a tip or two, it becomes doable, it becomes attainable. This is, I didn't mean to go on so awful long, but one thing I tell people, I warn them at the beginning of the workshop when we do our talk on design, is one phrase you're going to hear, or there's two phrases you're going to hear repeatedly over the next day and a half. One of them is, "I'm telling you this because I want you to put the information to use for yourselves." Unfortunately, most of the anecdotes they have to listen to star me, um, because I learned this on my own, because I didn't learn much at that workshop. And you're also going to keep hearing that this is very doable, because it is very doable.
Yep.
And it is not that hard to do. You're not
Yeah.
running a marathon. You're not inventing a religion. You're not liberating a country. You're carving up a finite space so that it suits your personal tastes and needs, your professional needs possibly, and the personal tastes and needs of whoever you're sharing the home with.
Yeah, I love that. Well, awesome. Well, Marty, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing all
thanks for
that,
having me.
inspiring people. Absolutely, absolutely. And we look forward to collaborating with you more in the future.
I hope so. I hope so.
For sure, for sure. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Marty, and I hope you have a wonderful day up there. And if you guys are looking for a great workshop, tiny house workshop, check out Catskills Tiny House Workshop. And Marty, once you jump off here, you can always drop your website down there in the chat box. So
I
awesome.
will. I will.
Thanks
Thanks
so
again.
much.
Take care.
Yep.
Take care.
Yep. You
Bye bye,
too.
everyone.
Take care.